I stood in my own kitchen, the morning light filtering through the curtains I'd hung 20 years ago, and listened to my daughter-in-law deliver her ultimatum. Either you start contributing rent, Robert, or you need to find somewhere else to live. We can't keep supporting dead weight. Dead weight. That's what Michelle called me. My son David stood behind her, studying his phone like it contained the secrets of the universe. He wouldn't look at me. I smiled. Not a big smile, just a small one. The kind that comes when you finally understand something you've suspected for a while. How much rent did you have in mind? I asked. Michelle's eyes lit up. She'd been expecting a fight. $2,000 a month, plus utilities. That's below market rate, really. You're getting a deal. $2,000. In the house my late wife Sarah and I had bought in 1987, the house where David learned to ride a bike in the driveway, the house whose mortgage I'd paid off in 2003. That seems reasonable, I said quietly. I'll need a few days to arrange things. You have until Friday, Michelle said. She was already turning away, dismissing me. And Rob? Try to keep the TV down at night. Some of us have real jobs to get up for. I'm 68 years old. I retired from my position 5 years ago, right after Sarah passed. The cancer had taken everything from us except each other, and then it took her too. David and Michelle had suggested I move in with them 6 months later. For your own good, Dad, David had said. The house is too big for one person. You shouldn't be alone. I should have known better. That afternoon I made a phone call. Just one. Mr. Pearson? The voice on the other end was warm, familiar. It's been a while. Hello, James. I need to ask you something. Anything, sir. You know that. Is the apartment above the garage still available? There was a pause. The one at the estate? Of course it is. But, sir, are you sure? I thought you wanted to stay close to your son. Plans change, I said. I'll need it by Friday. Consider it done. Should I send a car? No, I said. I'll handle the transportation myself. On Thursday evening, David came home early. This was unusual. He worked in IT consulting and typically stayed at the office until 7 or 8. It was barely 5. Dad, we need to talk. I was in my room, packing. Not that I had much. Funny how a lifetime compresses into a few boxes when you're not trying to hold on to things anymore. What's on your mind, son? He sat on the edge of the bed, wringing his hands. Michelle thinks maybe we were too harsh about the rent thing. Oh? Yeah. She said maybe $1,500 would be more fair. And you could skip utilities. I folded another shirt. That's generous of her. So you'll stay? I looked at my son, really looked at him. When had he become so small? Not physically. David was 6'2", same as me. But something inside him had shrunk. Maybe it had been happening for years and I'd been too close to see it. No, David. I don't think I will. His face reddened. Are you serious? Dad, where are you going to go? You don't have a job. Your pension can't be that much. Do you want to end up in some provincial care facility? I'll manage. You're being stubborn. This is ridiculous. Michelle's trying to meet you halfway, and you're acting like a child. I zipped up my suitcase. David, do you know what your mother's last words to me were? He blinked. What? No. I mean, I was there, but... She said, don't let anyone make you small, Robert. Not even family. I didn't understand what she meant at the time. I think I do now. That's not fair. We're trying to help you. Are you? I asked. Because from where I'm standing, it feels like you're trying to help yourselves to what's left of my dignity. Jesus, Dad. We let you live here rent-free for 6 months. You let me live in my own house, I said quietly. The house I signed over to you last year because you said you were drowning in debt from Michelle's business venture. The house your mother and I bought with money we earned and mortgage payments we never missed. That house. David's mouth opened and closed. You said that was a gift. It was, I said. I'm not taking it back. I just want you to remember what it cost me. On Friday morning at 8 a.m., I heard the car pull up outside. Through the window, I saw the black Lincoln Town car idling at the curb. James got out, wearing his usual dark suit. He'd aged well, James. We were about the same age, but he'd kept himself trim and sharp. Michelle was in the kitchen, making her protein shake. She glanced out the window and frowned. Robert? Is that your ride to the old folks' home? Something like that, I said. Well, it's very punctual. She sipped her shake. Make sure you take all your things. We're converting your room into a home gym. Already planned out, I see. No point letting space go to waste. David came downstairs, still in his pajamas. Dad, you don't have to do this. We can work something out. It's already worked out, I said. James came to the door. When Michelle opened it, she looked him up and down with that calculating expression she wore when sizing up whether something was worth her time. I'm here for Mr. Pearson, James said. Yeah, he's ready. Michelle was already turning away. David, I need you to measure that room today. The gym equipment arrives Monday. James took my suitcase and 2 boxes. That was everything. I'd already arranged for a storage unit for Sarah's things, the items I couldn't bear to throw away but didn't want to burden David with. Not that he'd shown any interest in his mother's collection of photography books or her grandmother's quilt. This is really it? David asked. You're just leaving? You asked me to contribute or find somewhere else, I said. I'm finding somewhere else. But where? Dad, you can't afford a place on your own. Not in this market. I'll manage, I said again. Michelle came back into the room. Before you go, Rob, you should know we're planning to renovate the basement too. If you left anything down there, it's probably going to get tossed. Just for your information. The basement, where I'd kept my workbench, where I'd built the cradle for David before he was born, and the dollhouse for his sister Anna before the accident took her from us. Where Sarah and I had spent weekend mornings refinishing furniture we'd found at estate sales, talking about everything and nothing. There's nothing down there I need, I said. James held the car door open. I slid into the back seat. Through the window, I could see David standing on the porch, hands in his pockets. Michelle had already gone back inside. Where to, Mr. Pearson? James asked. Home, I said. Take me home. We drove north, out of the subdivision where David and Michelle lived, past the Tim Hortons and the Canadian Tire, onto the highway that led out of Toronto. James didn't ask questions. He never did. That was one of the things I'd always appreciated about him. The drive took 90 minutes. The city fell away, replaced by rolling hills and farmland. It was late October, and the maples were showing off their last burst of color before winter settled in. Sarah had loved this time of year. She used to make me stop the car so she could photograph the trees. We turned off the highway onto a private road. The gate was open, waiting. The sign beside it read, Pearson Vineyards, Est, 1,995. Michelle had asked me once, shortly after I moved in with them, what I'd done before retirement. I'd told her I worked in agriculture. It wasn't a lie. Wine grapes are agriculture. What I hadn't mentioned was that Pearson Vineyards covered 200 acres of prime Ontario wine country, produced 15,000 cases annually, and had won international awards for our Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. What I hadn't mentioned was that the business Sarah and I built from nothing was now worth approximately $12 million. I hadn't mentioned a lot of things. The main house came into view, a restored Victorian farmhouse that Sarah had painstakingly renovated over 5 years. The tasting room addition, all glass and modern lines, caught the morning Sunday. Beyond it, rows of vines stretched toward the horizon, heavy with the last of the season's grapes. James pulled up to the garage apartment, a converted carriage house that we'd finished the year before Sarah got sick. She'd called it our retirement cottage, the place we'd downsized to when the main house became too much. I never lived there. After she died, I couldn't. The house was full of her, and I needed that. Needed to be surrounded by the things we'd chosen together. Moving in with David had seemed like a way to fill the space she left behind. I'd learned that you can't fill one hole by falling into another. Welcome back, sir, James said. I took the liberty of stocking the refrigerator. Margaret made your favorite stew. It's in the freezer. Margaret, our vineyard manager's wife who'd worked in the tasting room for 15 years, who'd brought casseroles to the house for months after Sarah's funeral, who'd cried with me at the memorial service. Thank you, James, I said, for everything. Are you sure about this, Mr. Pearson? Living out here alone? I'm not alone, I said. I'm home. That first week, I didn't contact David. I worked in the vineyard with the crew, harvesting the last of the grapes. My hands remembered the work, the careful selection of clusters, the weight of the bins. The manager, Tom, was happy to have me back. Thought we'd lost you to city life, he said. Just visiting, I said. How's your boy doing? Learning some lessons, I said. The second week, David called. I let it go to voicemail. He called again the next day, and the day after that. On the fourth call, I answered. Dad, where are you? I've been trying to reach you for days. I've been busy, I said. Busy with what? Are you okay? Are you eating properly? I'm fine, David. How are the renovations going? Forget the renovations. We need to talk. Can I come see you? Where are you living? He asked. Somewhere safe, I said. Somewhere I can afford the rent. There was a pause. Dad, I've been thinking. Maybe Michelle and I were wrong. Maybe we moved too fast on the whole rent situation. Maybe you did, I said. So come back. We'll figure something out. No rent. Just come back. Why? I asked. Why do you want me back? He didn't have an answer ready. I could hear him breathing, thinking. Because you're my father, he finally said. That's the first honest thing you've said in months, I said. But it's not enough. I hung up. The third week, Michelle called. This was interesting. Michelle never called me directly. Robert, hi. It's Michelle. Listen, I know we got off on the wrong foot with the whole rent thing. I was stressed about money and I took it out on you. I'm sorry. Thank you for the apology, I said. So you'll come back? No. Why not? I just apologized. Michelle, can I ask you something? Do you know what I did before I retired? You worked in agriculture. Some kind of farming thing, right? Something like that, I said. Well, anyway, we'd really like you to come back. David misses you. And I could use your help with something. What's that? I'm starting a new business. An online boutique for sustainable fashion. I could use some startup capital. Maybe 20 or 30,000. You must have some savings, right? I'd pay you back with interest. I almost laughed. Almost. Michelle, I don't think I'm the right investor for you. Why not? You don't believe in my vision? I'm sure your vision is fine, I said, but I'm not comfortable mixing family and business. That's ridiculous. Family should support each other. I agree, I said. Family should support each other. I hung up. The fourth week, I got a letter from a law firm. David and Michelle were concerned about my well-being and were exploring options for having me evaluated for competency. The letter suggested that perhaps I was not in a stable mental state to be making decisions about my living situation. I called my own lawyer, Patricia Chen. We'd worked together for 20 years, since she'd helped Sarah and me structure the vineyard as a business entity. They're fishing, Patricia said. They can't force a competency evaluation without cause. Have you done anything that would suggest diminished capacity? I moved out of my son's house and declined to invest in my daughter-in-law's business. That sounds perfectly rational to me, Patricia said. Do you want me to respond? Not yet, I said. Let's give them a bit more rope. The fifth week, David showed up at the vineyard. I was in the tasting room, reviewing orders with Margaret, when I saw his car pull up, a BMW 5 Series, less than a year old. I wondered how he'd finance that with all his debt problems. He walked into the tasting room and stopped. Just stopped and stared. The tasting room was busy. It was a Saturday afternoon, and we had a wedding party doing a private tour and tasting. 30 people, laughing and enjoying our wines, surrounded by photos of Sarah and me at various wine festivals, with awards, cutting ribbons at the grand opening. Can I help you, sir? Margaret asked David. I'm looking for Robert Pearson, he said, still staring around the room. And you are? His son. Margaret's expression didn't change, but something shifted in her eyes. I'll see if he's available. She came to the office, where I'd retreated when I saw David arrive. He's here, she said quietly. Want me to send him away? No, I said. Let him wait. I'll be out in a minute. I made him wait 15 minutes. Not out of cruelty, but because the wedding party needed attention, and they'd paid for a premium experience. When they were settled with their wine flights, I went out to the tasting room. David was standing in front of a photo of Sarah and me at the Lieutenant Governor's Awards for Excellence in Ontario Wine, the year we won gold for our Riesling. Is that Mom? He asked, not looking at me. Yes. She looks happy. She was. He turned to face me. What is this place, Dad? This is Pearson Vineyards, my winery. Your mother's and mine. Your winery. Yes. You own this. I do. He looked around the room again, at the expensive fixtures, the professionally designed space, the steady stream of customers. How much is this worth? Does it matter? Dad, you let me think you were broke. You let me and Michelle treat you like you needed charity. You treated me that way on your own, I said. I never asked for charity. But you could have told us. Why? I asked. So you'd treat me better? So you'd respect me because of what I own, instead of who I am? He didn't have an answer for that. Your mother and I built this business over 25 years, I said. We started with nothing but a dream and a loan. We were terrified we couldn't pay back. We worked 18-hour days. We learned everything from scratch. We failed more times than we succeeded, but we kept going. I didn't know, David said. You never asked. When I retired, you assumed I'd just worked some ordinary job. When I moved in with you, you assumed I was dependent on your generosity. You made assumptions, David, and I let you. Because I wanted to see who you really were when you thought I had nothing to offer you. That's not fair, isn't it? Let me ask you something. When was the last time you called me just to talk? Not to ask for something, not because Michelle wanted you to, but just to see how I was doing. He opened his mouth, closed it. When was the last time you asked me about your mother? About what I miss about her? About how I'm handling being alone? His eyes were getting red. When was the last time you treated me like a person instead of an obligation? Dad. His voice cracked. I gave you the house, I said. Do you know why? Not because you needed it. You and Michelle make good money. Your debt was from poor choices, not bad luck. I gave it to you because it was the last thing your mother and I shared, and I couldn't stand being there without her. I thought maybe you'd appreciate it, make new memories there with your own family. Instead, you turned around and charged me rent to live in my own gift to you. I didn't know it was your house. Michelle said her dad helped us with the down payment. Her dad didn't contribute a cent, I said. I paid off your mortgage completely. Check your closing documents. The money came from Pearson Holdings, LLC. That's me, David. That's this place. He sat down heavily in one of the tasting room chairs. I don't understand. Why didn't you just tell us? Because I was lonely and grieving, and I thought maybe if I spent time with you, we'd reconnect. I thought maybe you'd want to know me as a person, not just as a resource. I was wrong. I do want to know you, he said. I'm here now. You're here because you saw the tasting room, I said. You're here because you realized I have money. Where were you when you thought I had nothing? He couldn't look at me. David, I'm your father. I love you. I always will. But I don't like who you've become. And I won't pretend anymore that it's okay. The wedding party was leaving, thanking Margaret for a wonderful experience. Through the window, I could see the vineyards stretching out under the autumn Sunday. Sarah used to say this was the best time of day, when the light turned everything gold. What do you want from me? David asked. I want you to go home, I said. I want you to think about what kind of man you want to be. I want you to decide if you're happy with the person you see in the mirror. And then, if you still want a relationship with me, we can talk. But it'll be on equal terms, David. I'm not your ATM, and I'm not your burden. I'm your father. I'm sorry, he said. He was crying now, really crying. I know you are, I said. But sorry isn't enough. Sorry is just words. I need to see change. He left. I watched his BMW disappear down the private road. Margaret came over, handed me a glass of our Pinot Noir. That was hard, she said. Yeah, I said. Will he come back? I don't know, I said. Maybe, maybe not. What will you do if he doesn't? I sipped the wine. It was a good year, 2019. Sarah had been alive when we harvested these grapes. She'd helped select the barrels. I'll keep living, I said. I'll keep making wine. I'll keep being me. 2 months passed. The vineyard settled into winter dormancy. We released our new vintage to strong reviews. I hired a new assistant manager, a young woman named Sophie who reminded me of Sarah in her enthusiasm and eye for detail. David didn't call. Michelle did, once. She wanted to know if I'd reconsider the investment in her business. I declined. She hung up without saying goodbye. I attended the Ontario Wine Awards Gala in January. Pearson Vineyards won 3 medals. The local paper ran a story about the reclusive vintner who built a wine empire while staying under the radar. They mentioned that I'd recently returned to full-time management after a brief retirement. They got it wrong, of course. I hadn't been retired. I'd just been lost for a while. The next morning, David showed up again. No call ahead, just appeared at the carriage house door. He looked different. Thinner, maybe. Tired. "Can I come in?" he asked. I stepped aside. He looked around the apartment, taking in the space. It was simple but comfortable. Photos of Sarah on the walls. My books. A view of the vineyard through big windows. "Nice place," he said. "It suits me." "Dad, I've been doing a lot of thinking about what you said, about the kind of man I am. And I don't like what I found." He sat down without being invited. "Michelle and I separated. I moved out last month." "I'm sorry to hear that. Are you?" "You were married," I said. "I don't take pleasure in failed marriages." "It wasn't a marriage," David said. "It was a partnership of convenience that stopped being convenient. She wanted your money. When she realized she couldn't get it through me, she started looking for it elsewhere. Turns out she'd been having an affair with her business partner for 6 months." "I'm sorry," I said. "And I meant it." "The house," he said. "Your house. I want to give it back." "It's yours, David. I gave it to you." "I don't deserve it. I know that now. But more than that, I can't live there anymore. Every room reminds me of how badly I treated you, of Mom, of everything I took for granted. What will you do?" "I found an apartment. Nothing fancy. I'm selling the BMW. I'm paying off my actual debts, the ones I created through my own stupidity. I'm starting over." "That sounds like a good plan," I said. "I'm also going to therapy. Working through some things. The therapist asked me to describe my relationship with you, and I realized I couldn't. Not really. I knew facts about you, but I didn't know you. You were young when your mother and I started the vineyard," I said. "We were so busy building this place that we probably didn't spend as much time with you as we should have. That's on me too. But Anna died, and instead of leaning on you and Mom, I pulled away. I blamed you guys for not watching her closer. Anna. We didn't talk about Anna much. The pain was still too close, even after 15 years. The accident wasn't your fault," I said, "or ours. It was just a terrible thing that happened. I know that now, but I spent 15 years being angry at everyone, including myself. And then Mom got sick, and I couldn't deal with that either. So I worked more, stayed away more. And after she died, having you around was just a reminder of everything I'd failed at." "David." "No, let me finish. When you moved in with us, part of me was trying to make up for lost time. But part of me resented you. Resented that you'd had this full life with Mom, this business, this purpose, and I was just coasting through my own life without any of that. So when Michelle started pushing to charge you rent, I let her. Because it felt like finally you needed me instead of the other way around." "I've always needed you," I said quietly. "Just not for money. I know that now." We sat in silence for a while. Outside, a pair of cardinals landed in the maple tree, bright red against the snow. "Can I ask you something?" David said. "Why did you give me the house if you knew I didn't deserve it?" "Because I hoped that having something from your mother and me, something real and substantial, might make you think about what really matters. I was wrong about that too, but I don't regret trying." "I want to work here," he said suddenly. "At the vineyard. I don't know anything about wine, but I can learn. I'm good with systems, with organization. Maybe I could help with the business side." "Why?" I asked. "Because I want to be part of something that matters, something that lasts. Because I want to learn about what you and Mom built. Because I want to spend time with my father while I still can." I studied my son's face. He meant it, I could see that. But I could also see that he was fragile, that this newfound clarity could shatter under pressure. "On one condition," I said. "Anything. You start at the bottom. You work in the vineyard, with the crew. You learn how the grapes are grown before you touch any business operations. You prove that you're serious about this, not just looking for another shortcut." "How long?" "As long as it takes," I said. "Maybe a season, maybe 2. When Tom says you're ready, then we'll talk about next steps." "I'll do it," he said. "Whatever it takes." "The work starts at 6 in the morning," I said. "It's cold. It's physical. The crew will give you a hard time because you're the owner's son." "I can handle it." "We'll see," I said. He stood up. "Thank you, Dad." "Don't thank me yet. I said. "Thank me when you've made it through pruning season." He nodded and headed for the door. Then he stopped. "Dad, I read the article about the awards. It said you and Mom started this place with a $50,000 loan and a lot of hope. Is that true?" "Yes." "Where did you get $50,000 in the 90s? You were what, 40? Your mother and I sold our car and took out a second mortgage on a condo we could barely afford. Then we worked 3 jobs between us while getting the first vines in the ground. It was stupid and terrifying and the best decision we ever made. You risked everything." "We did," I said, "because we wanted to build something together, something that would last beyond us. We wanted to make something beautiful." "Did you?" I looked out the window at the vineyard, sleeping under its blanket of snow, waiting for spring. "Yes," I said. "We did." David showed up the next Monday at 5:45 in the morning, wearing work boots and clothes that had clearly never seen a vineyard. Tom assigned him to pruning duty under Manuel, one of our most experienced workers who had exactly 0 patience for incompetence. I watched from the carriage house window as David struggled with the first vine, making the cuts in the wrong place, getting corrected, trying again. Manuel's body language was pure exasperation. It would take time. Maybe it wouldn't work at all. Maybe David would quit after a week or a month. Maybe this was just another phase, another attempt to find meaning that would fade when the work got too hard. But maybe not. Maybe my son would learn what his mother and I had learned all those years ago, that the things worth having are the things you work for. That family isn't about what you can get from each other, but what you build together. That respect isn't given, it's earned. I made coffee and opened my laptop. There were orders to review, distributors to contact, the spring release to plan. The work of the vineyard continued, as it always did, through seasons and losses and changes. Sarah's photo was on my desk, the one from our first harvest. We were young and exhausted and covered in grape juice, grinning like idiots. She'd known, even then, that we'd built something that would last. I picked up my phone and texted David, "Remember to hydrate. Manuel will work you hard." 3 dots appeared. Then, already learning that. "Thanks, Dad." It wasn't much, just 2 words and a period. But it was honest, and it was there. And it was a start. Outside, the sun was rising over the frozen vineyard, painting the snow gold and pink. In a few months, the vines would wake up, buds would form, leaves would unfurl, and the whole cycle would begin again. That's the thing about vineyards. They teach you patience. They teach you that growth takes time, that you can't rush the important things, that sometimes you have to cut back severely to promote new, healthy growth. They teach you about seasons, about waiting, about faith in things you can't yet see. I sipped my coffee and watched my son learning to prune his first vine. Maybe this season would be different. Maybe we'd both grow something new.